How's everyone doing? Thanks for joining me on my small engine repair channel. Today's project is on this Toro recycler, and the problem we're having with it is it won't start. So let's take a look and see if we can figure out what's going on with it. Alright, so welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. I've got this Toro push mower, the recycler personal pace self-propel system. Now I have looked it over a little bit. When I got it here, the electric start didn't work, and apparently the previous owner said that he was sick and tired of pulling the cord because it wouldn't start, or it would take a long time to start. So I picked it up for pretty cheap, and I got the electric start working. The battery was dead on it, and the starter gear actually right up and in here, it's gonna be hard to see, but right where my finger is in there, that starter gear needed some lubrication. It just was spinning, but it wouldn't go up and engage with the flywheel. So let me show you what it's doing. I did check the oil, and it does have some fuel in it. So alright, so there you go. It's definitely not starting. So what I'm going to do is, first thing I'm going to check is, this looks like, yes, it has an auto choke system, and the choke is closed. So that is the starting position. So that seems correct. There is the running position, and there is the start position, run position, start position. Okay, so that is correct. The spark plug wire is attached, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some fuel, raw fuel, into this carburetor through that choke flap, and I'm going to see if it will run on that. Alright, so I need a little screwdriver here to manually, actually not on this one, I can just reach up and lift the flap. I'm going to spray some quick start in here. Now, if this thing starts up and runs off the quick start and then dies, we know we got a carb issue. If it doesn't start at all, then we move on and maybe there's an electrical issue. So it did run and stayed running, but just not well. There's definitely something not quite right about this thing. I think I'm going to dive into the carburetor first, give that a clean, and we're going to go from there. Alright, to get the carburetor off, first thing I'm going to do is take off the air filter housing. It's 3 5/16. And this should just pop right off. Just careful, there is a gasket usually in the back side here. Okay, these are pretty cheap if you do need to replace them though. So this air filter housing looks a little bit warped to me. I don't know if that's coming across on camera, but that looks a little bit on the warped side to me. Don't think that would really cause our issue. Next thing I'm going to do is take off the top cover here. There's usually 2 Phillips screws. That one's over there. Alright. Now I'm just doing a quick inspection here. Everything looks okay, not missing the spring here for the, it's like a little arm for the choke system. I think what I'm going to do is take off the fuel tank next. I'm going to be doing a complete service on this thing anyway, so there is 3 5/16 as well on the top here, holding this tank on, and then 1 3/8 on the bottom side. I'm going to clamp off the fuel line. Trying to clamp it a little closer here. And then there's a 3/8 on the bottom. That would be right there, that silver guy right there. And there's usually a sleeve back here as well, like a spacer. That's that guy there. So now this whole tank can come off. I'll just take off the clamp for the fuel line. That goes to the carburetor. Okay, and I'll try and just sort of wiggle loose the fuel line. There we go. All right. Now I've sort of just remove the top cover altogether, remove the fuel tank. And now we're ready to get up and underneath the hood here as well, because I do want to see the other end of this this arm, because there is for the auto choke system, there is a lever over here that has to be set up correctly. So there's 1 2 3 4 3/8. Okay. And there's a little 5/16 up here on top bolt for the dipstick. And then what I do with the dipstick after I've taken that bolt out is I'll just lift it up and out and then rotate it, and I'm just going to leave it attached down there so no junk gets in the crankcase. And now we're ready to take this top cover off. Alright, so looking underneath the hood here, this is the little lever I was talking about, and it is set up correctly for the auto choke, although I don't know if it's working correctly because, well, it's still warm. So what happens is when it warms up, it actually moves this lever. All right, and normally with the shroud on and the flywheel spinning, this fan actually will cause this thing, this arm here, to get pushed outwards anyways. Okay, when it gets pushed outwards, that's the running position, which is the choke open. You can see that. Now, as the mower heats up, this arm actually goes further and further, right, and pushes on this this arm as well. But when this mower is running, this arm is in its full position anyways. But what this does is that it sets the choke, supposed to set the choke for the next start. So if it's fully heated up, this should be all the way over, and for your next start you don't need the choke because it's warmed up. That's kind of how that works. As it cools off, then it goes further and further back this way, right, and then closes off that choke flap. Now, sometimes what I've noticed in the past is these choke flaps, for whatever reason, the design sometimes will rub. Well, this is actually not even tight. I can turn this bolt with my hand. I'm not supposed to be able to do that. So that was loose, and then this has an opportunity to kind of rub. This has an opportunity to kind of rub on places when it, and right here. Okay, so this wasn't tight. So I don't know if that's part of our problem. I wouldn't say it's the whole problem. I think there's something going on in the carb. I think it's dirty carb. But we're going to take it all apart anyways. Okay, so take off this spring. Okay, you just pull it off of there. Just don't lose this thing. All right, these things are worth their weight in gold. Okay, so remove that spring. We're gonna, while I'm up here, I'll remove this spring as well. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that one hanging. And next thing I'm gonna do with, well, I'm just gonna unscrew it with my hands because that's as tight as it was. Unscrew that bolt, remove this sort of choke flap, that off to the side. All right, and now we're ready to continue taking the carb off. There are two 3/8 bolts right here that are the last things we got to do to take this off, and remove the linkage here for the governor slash throttle system. Okay. And now it should just slide off. There is an O-ring here on the back side. Don't lose that. Sometimes they stay on the intake. Okay, and then to get this linkage off, it's just a Z-bend, so I'll push it all the way down and then rotate it. I'm going to keep my finger on the fuel inlet so no fuel spills out of there. So I'm down and then rotate it 90 degrees, and now we have our carb off. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of old gas and clean this off with a paintbrush on the outside and then blow it all down before I get to taking it apart. Alright, so I got it all cleaned up from the outside. I just don't want all that crap kind of going on the inside. I did drain the fuel from this bowl, and that was strictly to be able to clean the outside. So there shouldn't be a whole lot of fuel in this bowl. Alright, and this actually is one of the cleaner ones I've ever seen. So we could be incorrect on float. Doesn't have any issues there. The needle, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Well, the needle's got a little bit of a ring around it towards the tip. We're going to see if that's just seat debris. Yeah, it is scraping off. So what I want to do is, before I get too far into this, I want to actually do like a pressure test on this carburetor just to see if the needle and seat is actually good, or am I going to have to rebuild this thing. So to do that, there's the easiest way is to wipe this thing nice and clean and then blow in it and listen for air escaping when it's in the upside down position. Right now with it in the upside down position, the needle and seat should be seated. The needle should be seated to the seat. So if I blow in there and I hear air coming out, which I don't, then that means that's making a good seal. Of course, if I flip it over like it normally is, all right, as the fuel level comes up, that should shut that off. But with it in the open position, you can hear the air blowing through there. So that's the way, quick and dirty, easy way to do that. So the needle and seat seem fine. Okay. The seat is down in here. It's just a rubber seat. So I'm going to take the bowl gasket off here. All right. I'm going to clean this in my ultrasonic cleaner, but if you don't have one, essentially what you're going to do is, well, I'll show you real quick. Get yourself a bread tie. There's a couple little holes here, so you want to stick your bread tie in there. Okay, that one seems a little bit crusty, like there was some resistance there. So just stick it in, twirl around as best you can, as far down as you can get it. Same on this one, much less resistance here. Okay, And do the same thing on the pickup tube here. Stick that in there. Okay, and what you're going to do is take some carb spray. You're going to spray all these little holes and passageways. Not in here though, we don't want to spray carb spray in where that rubber seat is, or in the pickup tube, because it just comes, or not the pickup tube, the fuel inlet, because the fuel comes in through here and it comes out there. So if I sprayed it in this way or that way, you're going to get some on that rubber seat. Sprayed in all these little passageways, okay, and that's the best way you can do it if you don't have an ultrasonic cleaner. So I'm going to throw this in the ultrasonic cleaner for 15 minutes with all the parts. Now here is the most likely culprit a lot of times if your machine's not running or not running properly. This is the main jet, okay. This also serves as a bowl nut, and unfortunately this camera is not focusing today, but there's a hole. Okay, there's a small little opening right there. Now that opening should be actually bigger than that. So this is definitely not allowing enough fuel to go through. Now, if sometimes you just blow on it, because some residual fuel in there actually will make it look like there's a blockage. Now you can see it's quite a much larger opening. There's also a small hole in the top of this thing as well, where you can go ahead with your bread tie again and just stick that in there and make sure it comes all the way through. Okay, this is usually the main culprit. So that's that. I'm going to put all of this stuff in my ultrasonic cleaner now, minus the rubber O-ring. Alright, and after 15 minutes we'll come back and we'll put it all back together. Alright, so while the ultrasonic cleaner is going, I did drain out the fuel out of the fuel tank. It is a little bit deeper shade of yellow than I would hope for, but I would suspect it's good enough to run on. I won't probably reuse this, but I just wanted to show you that little bubble-like thing at the bottom. That is water in the fuel tank. Okay, so last thing you want to do is go ahead and clean your carburetor real nice, and then throw some water fuel into it, a nice clean carburetor. So the other thing I'm doing as well is I'm just putting the fuel tank out in the sun for half an hour or an hour or so, try to dry up any water or residual fuel that's in there, and then I'll blow it out with an air gun afterwards. I'm going to put it down and put some fresh gas in it, and we'll try and fire it up. Alright, let's see what we get. Alright, so there you have it. A little bit of a carb clean, and she's up and running. She started real nice, real easy with the electric start. So pretty happy with this one. Hopefully it helped you guys out. If it did, go ahead and smash the like button. And if you're not a subscriber, consider doing so. That seriously helps me out on the channel. So until our next project, guys, take care.